You are listening to Words with a Mad Coach. I am Mad Coach. I am Mad Coach. I am. I am Mad Coach. I am Mad Coach. I am. You are listening to Words with a Mad Coach.
Okay, Mad World, let's talk about the flow. When we talk about flow, we're not just talking about a mental process where we get ourselves in a, elevated state of mental awareness where we can recognize everything in the room. We can just feel like we're in the groove and we can make no mistakes. That's a type of flow, but it's not the only one we want to use. We want to use that as well as a physical practice that allows us to understand who we are at the moment, take in the ever-changing situation with the room that we're training in, the situation with our opponents, situations with the drills, and the criteria in terms of what the particular goal is at the moment. We want to take in a lot of things and we want to change a lot of things because when we go into a fight, we deal with so many emotions. Although we're trying to maintain that one state of excellence and high performance, your opponent is as well. So he's trying to physically take it away from you. He's very direct. He's in your face right there at the moment. And he's trying to inflict pain. I think that's one of the reasons why flow in combat sports is a little bit different than other sports, is because your opponent is actually trying to knock you out of your consciousness or do something that will impede it. Now, when you're trying to attain that flow state in the gym, the first thing you have to learn to do is focus on your strengths and weaknesses. The biggest mistake I see when it comes to flowing in the gym is thinking that it's just this freestyle athletic endeavor, do whatever you want. That's not exactly it. We want you to chase down that creative side of you, but it comes in time. Right? For the most part, you want to build your game on the basics. Although the basics are there for everyone, not everyone performs them at the same level because we're all different. So the first thing you need to do is focus on you and get a good inventory of your strengths and weaknesses. Then you want to focus on the goal, the task, the criteria, whatever that is. And you can change the nature of that criteria from moment to moment. You can say, okay, now we're grappling. Now we're grappling with strikes. Now we're only standing. Now we're only standing grappling. Now we're standing grappling, looking for takedowns back to the ground, and we're going to add in ground and pound. I don't care how many times you change the criteria. It doesn't mean you lose the flow. In fact, for training, especially mixed martial arts, you really want to learn to change the criteria quite often at a certain level. There's a point, maybe not in the beginning, but you want to change the criteria often so that your training partner or your trainee gets used to dealing with a lot of factors at one time and ever-changing factors at one time. So after you learn to focus on what the goal is and focus on your strengths and weaknesses related to that goal, then you want to learn to engage your training partner. You want to get really good at this, being able to identify certain movements over and over and over and over. And you want to move faster and faster once they're identified. Now, this does not take long. Although I'm making it sound like it's going to take months or years, actually, this is something that I can do within a week and take you through this whole process where you're in the flow mode. But you have to stop thinking in terms of the way other people have always done it, the way I've always heard about it, what I read, what I saw on YouTube. You really want to just get into the training room. The real benefit of the flow is that it takes people who didn't have the wrestling background, who didn't go to college, who are not superior athletes. It serves as a bridge and allows them to catch up in a very short period of time. It gives them an edge, but you can't think of it like a weapon in terms of hurting someone as much as you want to think of it as a tool of development and very specific, quick development that's going to bring you to a high level of performance in a very short period of time, catch you up to what everybody else is doing. But the biggest weakness to it that I've seen is this idea that people compare themselves to other people. They see what other people are doing or they hear about it, and they don't have a way of truly measuring why that other person is performing the way they are. So they just assume I should be doing it like they're doing it. No, you are your own person. You got to learn how to do things your way for you to be successful. And if you learn the processes of flowing, you will find that method. And it doesn't take long. Like I said, a week at best. And that's if you let go, truly let go of all the nonsense. So once you begin to engage your training partner, you're going to sync everything in terms of your especially your timing. You're going to develop your unique sense of self-timing, and you're going to learn to sync with the external timing, the energy that he's feeding you. That's the key. Once you get into this level of engagement, you're about halfway there. Then you want to learn to adapt, because the longer you go, the more you flow, the more fun you start to have while doing it, the more creative you want to become. There are going to be mistakes made. Now, these mistakes don't mean injury. If you're flowing correctly, they don't mean injury. It just means that you might have thrown a kick that was ill-advised, and thank God, because that's the point of the flow, to put you in situations that you may not have previously trained, and you're learning to adapt to these situations. So you throw a kick and the guy catches your leg, he takes you down, you weren't ready for it, but because you're in the flow, you're learning, you're adapting, and adaptation is the third phase of this. When you start adding tools that you either previously did not have or previously did not agree upon or previously did not rehearse, but it's somewhat spontaneous and it's somewhat unexpected, but you and your training partner are so engaged and focused and in sync with one another, you allow it. But this doesn't work if you're all out sparring, because if you start doing something that's very dangerous, your partner's not going to allow you to do it, or he's just going to quit altogether. But if you're flowing, your training partner may want to see that situation, and that's a beautiful thing. So you have to get into focus, you have to engage with them, then you have to allow for adaptation of unspoken circumstances, and then you want to repeat this process. If you are flowing correctly, you can use it for any part of your training method. It can become part of your workout. It can be used for technical drill. It can be used as your sparring method. It can be used for conditioning. It can be used for anything, isolation drills, anything to develop skill and high level performance. You can use it anywhere within your training format. And once you're able to establish this, then depending on what you're trying to do, the flow can be 15 minutes. The flow can be an hour. It doesn't really matter once you understand it. And that's the secret. If you look at a lot of guys, where do the injuries come from? They go too live for too long. And that's where the injuries come from. Somehow we believe that, hey, that's what they do over there, and that's why they're the champions. And without real investigation, going deep into their gyms and going deep into their processes, you'll never know that. It's just a lot of assumption. And it's one of the weaknesses of martial arts, and has been for such a long time, that we don't delve deep into the real reason why certain people have the skills they have and the abilities they have and the championships behind them. We really don't know. It's all speculation. It's all guesswork. There's so many things we know that because we know how to measure it. But when it comes to combat sports, they make it seem like everything's just up in the air and it's just all guesswork. And it's not. You have to become more adept at learning how to train and preserve the body. I agree with certain fighters that say, hey, we don't spar anymore, blah, 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 blah. But I only agree with it only in the sense that they probably only do hard sparring. So yes, I would rather say stop sparring versus doing hard sparring. But if you have a training method that lets you step ladder your way up, you can save some brain cells. And also the flow helps create a middle ground. A lot of hard sparring is done, and unfortunately it's usually some advanced guy and some beginner guy that gets together, and the beginner guy has no real way of understanding how much better he's gotten or how much worse he's gotten, and he's trying to just indoctrinate himself to the better guys, and so he figures the only way to keep up is to go hard, and then bam, he gets hurt. I've seen this for years and it never fails. When the truth be told is you create a middle ground where you only flow and you work on certain goals and you work on certain tasks. And if they can't achieve that at that particular time, they shouldn't really be hard sparring with those guys. You should really hard spar only with guys at your level. But unfortunately, most of us like to win. And so what we end up doing is we end up trapping someone into a situation where I want to test out my latest theories. And you really don't need to do that. The flow allows for you to understand what you're trying to do at any given point and gives you a real-time feedback in terms of where you are and where you need to go. It's a lot of insight built into the flow. It doesn't have to be anything where you have to trick someone and hurt them. And it doesn't have to be a thing where you make them feel uncomfortable out of themselves, where they start going bananas and then you have to open up to keep them off of you. That's why flow training is something that should be done in the early stages and everyone gets involved in it. But again, flowing, really easy. 4 things: focus, engagement, adaptation, repetition. It doesn't change. And if you look at anybody who's performing at a high level, they're able to do that over and over and over. And that's the real secret. It's not so much that the secrets, those 4 categories I just mentioned, it's not so much that that's the secret. The secret is being able to get into that state over and over and over and over. And that's why in combat sports, it is really wise that we practice that state. Yes, you could be an individual person and do that and really elevate your game, and you'll be a better person in the gym. But what you really want to do is elevate your gym, especially if you don't have a significant amount of former athletes in the gym. So if you create the atmosphere in the gym, you actually create a world-class athletic performance center. Hey, look, I am Coach Sess, and you have had words with the Mad Coach.